Grace was rich and comfortable. She worked as a senior accountant in a large company and sold premium fabrics on weekends. People in her neighborhood called her the quiet, beautiful lady with bright eyes and a strong mind. She owned a two-bedroom house in her own name, drove a neat little car, and lived a life most people her age only dreamed about. But comfort can be a lonely place when no one shares it with you. Across town, Daniel's world was the opposite. His small printing shop, once full of life, was now a tired, dusty room with machines that coughed more than they printed. The landlord had threatened him 3 times already. Customers complained. Many days, he sat in the middle of his shop, staring at the empty doorway, wondering how life had moved forward and left him behind. The two of them lived in the same city, breathed the same air, but walked 2 very different paths. Their story began on a Saturday morning. Grace had gone to the market to buy accessories for her fabrics business. She loved Saturdays, the noise, the bargaining, the colors, the energy. Her smile alone made people move aside for her. She wasn't just beautiful. She carried herself with a confidence that made heads turn. She stopped at a shop that specialized in printing brand tags and labels. She needed new labels for her fabric packages, something with a gold touch and a sharper logo. Someone told her about a printing guy who did good work, but had fallen into hard times. That man was Daniel. Grace walked towards the shop, expecting a standard business interaction, but what she saw stopped her. The shop was half open, the metal shutter stuck at an awkward angle. Inside, a man sat at a dusty table, his head down on folded arms. He looked exhausted, like life had been dragging him by the collar for too long. Grace cleared her throat gently. "Excuse me, are you open?" Daniel raised his head slowly. His eyes were tired, but behind the fatigue was a softness she didn't expect. He blinked, surprised to see a customer, especially someone who looked like her. "Why, yes. Yes, I'm open. How can I help you?" he asked, straightening his shirt. Grace stepped inside, her heels tapping lightly on the tile floor. "I need custom fabric labels," she said. Daniel nodded, reached for his notebook, then paused. "Please sit." Grace sat, looking around the shop, noticing the broken machine, the dusty shelves, and the silence that felt heavy enough to taste. "Is business slow?" she asked gently. Daniel gave a small, embarrassed smile. Slow would be a blessing. "It's nearly dead." There was something about his honesty that touched her. A man in trouble usually hides, but Daniel didn't bother pretending. She handed him her design sample. "Can you print something like this?" Daniel examined the paper carefully. "I can print it," he said, "but I'll need a day or 2. The gold foil machine overheats. I have to run it slowly." Grace noticed the hesitation. "It overheats because it's old?" "Because everything here is old," Daniel said with a sad laugh. "But I can still deliver quality. I just need more time." Grace looked at him for a long moment. There are people whose pain is loud, people who complain, blame, shout. But then there are people like Daniel, quiet fighters who suffer silently but still try. "I don't mind waiting," she said softly. "Take your time." Daniel looked up sharply. "Really?" "Yes." It wasn't just kindness. Something about him, his sincerity, his transparent struggle, pulled at her heart. As he prepared samples, Grace watched him work. His hands were steady, careful, full of skill. He knew his machines like a mechanic knew an old car, every sound, every weakness. When the sample was ready, he handed it to her. "It's not perfect yet," he said, "but it will be." Grace smiled. "It looks wonderful." For a moment, Daniel forgot his problems. He forgot the landlord, the bills, the dying business. Her praise landed on his heart like rain on a dry field. "How much will it cost?" she asked. Daniel named a price, lower than what most printers charged. Grace shook her head. "Charge me the real price. Not the kind you give when you're trying to keep a customer." Daniel froze. His eyes met hers, and something warm moved between them, a wordless understanding, a kind of respect. "Okay," he said quietly. "The real price is this." She paid instantly. He blinked at the money. "Thank you." Her voice softened. "Don't thank me. You're doing the work." Before she left, She took one more look around the shop. She didn't say it out loud, but the thought formed clearly in her heart. This man doesn't deserve to lose everything. As she walked out, Daniel watched her from the doorway. He didn't know why, but her presence left a warmth in the room, something he hadn't felt in months. When she stepped into her car, Daniel whispered to himself, "Who is she?" Grace drove away, unaware that this simple Saturday morning encounter would change both their lives forever. Fate had already begun stitching something between them, something deeper than business, stronger than hardship. This was only the beginning. The next morning, Daniel arrived at his shop earlier than usual. The sun had barely risen, but he was already inside, cleaning the table, wiping the dusty cutter, arranging the ink bottles, and checking the gold foil machine that had become both his pride and his headache. He wasn't preparing for just any client. He was preparing for her. Grace's visit had done something to him. It wasn't romantic. No, not yet. It was something simpler, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the first time in months, he had a reason to straighten his shirt, organize his tools, and make his shop look like a place where good work still happened. As he tightened the screw on the machine, he murmured to himself, "She believed in me. I can't disappoint her." Across the city, Grace was also thinking about him. She sat at her dining table, sipping tea, staring at the sample he had given her. It wasn't perfect, but it was sincere. You could see the effort in the clean cut, the careful alignment, the way the gold shimmered despite the machine struggling. A hard-working man, she whispered to herself. Grace had met wealthy men before, smooth talkers with polished shoes and empty hearts. But Daniel, he was different. His struggle was real. His humility was real. His effort was real. And maybe, just maybe, this was why he stayed in her thoughts longer than expected. By afternoon, Grace returned to the shop. Daniel heard the soft sound of her heels, and his heart jumped. He stood up quickly, wiping his hands on a cloth, trying not to look too excited, and failing. "You're early," he said. "I know," Grace smiled. "I wanted to see the progress." He gestured to the sample he had improved. "I made a cleaner version. The gold is smoother now." Grace picked up the new label, holding it close to the light. It was indeed better, sharper, brighter, more polished. "This is beautiful, Daniel." Her voice had that calm, gentle tone that sank into him like warm water. "I'm glad you like it," he said. Then, unexpectedly, she asked, "Can I see your other machines?" Daniel hesitated. Showing someone his shop was like showing them his struggle. The broken laminator, the cutter with a missing handle, the shelves with old, dusty materials. It wasn't a pretty picture, but Grace wasn't judging. She walked around slowly, touching nothing, just observing with thoughtful eyes. "How old is this printer?" she asked. 7 years, he replied. "And this laminator?" "Older than I want to remember," he laughed weakly. She looked at him. "Have you ever thought of upgrading?" He sighed. "Every day. But machines are expensive. And business, well, you've seen it." Grace didn't smile this time. Her eyes softened with something like empathy. "Do you work alone?" she asked. "Yes. Couldn't afford staff anymore." "That must be exhausting." Daniel shrugged. "It's life. You keep trying until life stops punching you." Grace turned to him, her voice lower. "You're a strong man, Daniel. But even strong people need help sometimes." The words hit him in a place he didn't know was exposed. He looked away. "I don't like asking for help." "I didn't say you should ask," she replied. "I only said you deserve it." Silence covered the room like a warm blanket. Grace left after a while, but this time she didn't go home directly. She drove to another street, one she rarely visited. A row of printing equipment suppliers stood there, displaying new machines, shiny laminators, powerful printers, gold foil machines that didn't overheat or cough. Grace walked into one of the stores. "Good afternoon, madam," the salesman said. "How can I help you?" "I need information," she said. "Printing machines, prices, payment plans." The salesman began listing models, showing catalogs. Grace listened carefully, making mental notes. She wasn't buying anything, not yet. She just needed to know. Because for the first time in a long time, she felt deeply drawn to help someone, not out of pity, not out of charity, but because she saw a man with talent drowning in circumstances he didn't deserve, a man who simply needed a hand at the right moment. Meanwhile, back at the shop, Daniel sat on the wooden stool, staring at the door Grace had walked out of. He was confused. Why did her presence feel like sunlight after a long winter? Why did her kindness shake something inside him? Why did he feel seen? He took a deep breath, whispering to the quiet room. She's too good, too successful, too everything. Why would she care about someone like me? But in his heart, a tiny voice whispered, because sometimes life brings the right person when you least expect it. That evening, as Grace cooked dinner, her mind drifted back to Daniel's shop. The dusty shelves, the broken machines, the tire of a determined man who kept pushing even when everything seemed hopeless. She found herself thinking, if someone like him had a second chance, what could he become? Her phone buzzed. A message. It was Daniel. Thank you for coming today. It meant more than you know. Grace smiled at her screen, softly, gently, like someone who had just discovered a secret. She typed, "You're welcome, Daniel. Your work is good. Keep believing in yourself." Daniel stared at her message for a long time, and for the first time in many months, he slept with a peaceful heart. But fate wasn't done. The next days would change everything, his business, her life, and the quiet connection growing between them. This was only the second step in a journey neither of them planned, but both of them needed. 3 days passed, and with each day, something quietly changed between Grace and Daniel. Grace found herself stopping by the shop more often, not always for business, sometimes just to check on him. She would bring him tea or snacks or simply conversation. Daniel, on the other hand, began cleaning his shop earlier, polishing his machines, and even fixing things he had ignored for months. He wanted his best self to stand before her. On the 4th day, Grace entered the shop and found Daniel staring at a letter pinned to the wall. His shoulders were tense and his jaw clenched. "Daniel," she said softly. He didn't turn immediately. When he did, he forced a smile. "Oh, Grace, you were here early." She stepped closer. "Is everything okay?" He hesitated, eyes flicking to the letter again. Grace followed his gaze. The paper was wrinkled as though he had grabbed it angrily. She read the bold words. "Final notice, shop eviction." Her heart dropped. "Daniel," she whispered, "when did you get this?" "Today," he said quietly. "The landlord is done waiting. I have 1 week. After that," he exhaled shakily, "I'll have to close." Grace moved closer, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it's my burden," he said, "and because I didn't want you to think I was using your kindness." Grace looked at him, really looked at him. His eyes were tired. His spirit was fighting, but he was breaking, and he didn't know how to say it. "You're not using me," she said. "I came here because I wanted to." He turned away, swallowing hard. "You barely know me." "But I see you," she said. "That's enough." Her words pierced him in a way nothing else had. Grace took the eviction notice off the wall and folded it gently. "What do you need to stay open?" she asked. Daniel shook his head immediately. "No, please, don't." "Daniel," she said firmly, "answer me." He sighed. 3 months' rent, and money to repair at least 1 machine. "But Grace, I can't ask you for anything. I can't even accept it." "I didn't say I was giving you money," she replied. Daniel froze. She continued, "I'm asking what you need because I have a plan." He stared at her, confused. "What plan?" Grace took a breath. "I want to partner with you." Daniel blinked. "Partner? With me?" "Yes." He looked around his dusty shop, as if she was joking. "You're a senior accountant," he said. "A businesswoman. Successful. Why would you want to partner with a man whose shop is dying?" Grace stepped closer. Her voice softened, but her words were unshakable. "Because your shop is dying, not you." Daniel's breath caught. "And because I believe in people who don't give up," she continued. "You're skilled. You're honest. You're hardworking. I've seen that with my own eyes. You just need the right support, the right structure, the right strategy. She paused. I can give you that. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came out. Grace looked at him with a seriousness that made his heart pound. Let me invest. Let me help you rebuild this place, not as charity, but as a partner. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. No one has ever offered me something like this, he whispered. Grace smiled faintly. Then, let me be the first. He sank onto the stool, burying his face in his hands. Grace, this is too much. No, she said. It's just the beginning. They talked for over an hour. Grace explained how the business could be rebranded, how they could offer premium label printing for boutiques, how she could bring clients through her fashion network, and how his skills could shine again with new equipment. Daniel listened in disbelief. Every idea she presented opened a window of light in a room that had been dark for a long time. Finally, Daniel looked up and whispered, Why are you doing this? Grace didn't answer immediately. She searched his face, her eyes warm and sincere. Because sometimes, she said softly, God put someone in your path for a reason, and I think you're that someone. The room fell silent. Daniel's eyes glistened, but he blinked the tears away quickly. Grace, I won't let you down. I know, she said. The next day, Grace met him at the shop with a folder in her hand. Are you ready? She asked. For what? To go shopping, she said with a smile. Printing shopping. Daniel stared at her. You're serious? Dead serious. His heart hammered. Grace, these machines are expensive. I know, she replied. But investment today becomes profit tomorrow. He exhaled shakily. I've never had anyone believe in me like this. Grace placed a gentle hand on his arm. Then get used to it. Daniel swallowed hard. Her touch was warm, steadying, something he didn't know he needed until that moment. Let's go, she said. They spent the afternoon visiting suppliers. Daniel tested printers while Grace asked smart financial questions. He checked laminators while she negotiated prices, so aggressively that even the salesman looked impressed. They picked out a new gold foil machine, a cutter, and packaging material that would transform the shop into a modern printing business. Daniel watched her move through the store with confidence and power. He had never met a woman like her, beautiful, sharp, fearless, kind. And while she focused on business, he quietly wondered, what kind of woman helps a man like this? What kind of heart does she have? As they left the final supplier, Daniel leaned back in the car seat, overwhelmed. Grace, he whispered. Thank you. She turned to him, her eyes glowing softly in the fading sunlight. Daniel, she said slowly, this is not just your second chance. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? She smiled, small, mysterious. This is ours. Daniel felt something shift inside him, something gentle, powerful, dangerous, something that felt like the beginning of a story that was larger than both of them. The next morning began like a movie scene, one that neither Grace nor Daniel ever imagined they would be part of. Delivery trucks lined up in front of Daniel's dusty little shop. Neighbors peeked from windows. Shop owners paused their work. Even kids stopped playing to watch. One by one, workers unloaded the machines Grace had ordered the day before. A brand new industrial printer, a high-speed laminator, a shining gold foil stamping machine, cutting tools, packaging materials, and boxes of fresh ink. Daniel stood outside, speechless, frozen in disbelief as the equipment he had only seen in catalogs was now entering his shop like blessings raining from the sky. He ran his fingers over the metallic surface of the gold foil machine, whispering, This can't be real. Grace stood beside him, smiling, not the proud smile of someone who gave a gift, but the satisfied smile of someone who believed they had done the right thing. Daniel, she said softly, welcome to your new beginning. He turned to her, eyes shining with emotion he tried hard to hide. Grace, how do I even thank you for this? You don't, she replied. Just make this shop everything it has the potential to be. Her words hit him deeper than she knew. Inside the shop, a new world. The workers placed each machine carefully, and for the first time in years, Daniel saw his shop transform. The tired, dusty room began to glow with possibility. Wires ran across the floor, machines hummed to life, and fresh ink filled the air with a new, sharp scent. Daniel walked slowly from one machine to the next, almost afraid to touch them. Grace watched him, her arms crossed lightly, her eyes soft. "You look like someone who just won a new life," she teased. "I feel like someone who doesn't deserve it," he said quietly. "You do," she replied. "More than you think." Daniel met her eyes, and the room felt smaller, warmer. Something unspoken passed between them again, something that neither of them dared to name yet. The first test print. "Let's try something," Daniel said, unable to contain his excitement. He switched on the new printer. It hummed smoothly, nothing like the coughing old machine he used to fight with. He loaded the design of Grace's fabric labels. Grace stood behind him, watching closely. The printer rolled out the first sample. It was perfect, sharp gold, clean edges, professional finish. Grace gasped softly. "Daniel, this is beautiful." Daniel held the sample in his hand, staring at it like a miracle. He whispered, "I've never been able to print something this clean before." "That's why you needed a partner," she said. "And I got the best one," he replied. Grace looked away quickly, pretending to check another machine to hide the warmth on her face. A small crowd gathers. The noise from the machines drew people to the doorway. A shop owner said, "Daniel, what's going on here?" Another whispered, "New machines? Where did he get money?" A woman added, "This place looks like a real printing studio now." Someone else murmured, "Maybe God finally remembered him." For months, they had watched his business drown. Now they watched it rise, and nobody could hide their shock. Grace noticed the whispers, but kept her calm. Daniel, however, felt nervous. "What if they think I'm bragging?" he murmured. "You're not bragging," Grace said. "You're rebuilding." She placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Daniel inhaled deeply. For the first time, he stood tall. A new customer walks in. Just as the crowd began to disperse, a boutique owner entered. Someone who had refused to use Daniel's services months ago because of his outdated machines. "Is the shop open?" she asked. Grace nudged Daniel gently. "Go ahead." He walked over confidently. "Yes, we're open. How can I help you?" "I need premium gold foil tags for my clothing line. Someone told me you upgraded your machines." Grace raised an eyebrow. "Someone?" The woman smiled. "People talk." Daniel smiled for the first time without hesitation. "Yes, we upgraded. Let me show you a sample." He handed her the label he had printed for Grace. Her eyes widened. "This is perfect." Daniel's chest filled with pride. "Thank you. We can produce any style, any size." "How soon can you start?" she asked. "Today." "Then count me in," she said. "I'll bring my designs in the morning." When she left, Daniel turned to Grace with pure gratitude shining in his eyes. "You did this," he whispered. "No," she said. "We did this." Later that evening, the sun began to set, painting the shop in warm gold. The machines were quiet now, but the room was alive with hope, more hope than it had seen in years. Daniel locked the door and stood beside Grace outside. "You changed my life today," he said softly. Grace looked at him, searching his expression. "I didn't change your life. I just helped you see what you were capable of." Daniel shook his head. "No, Grace, you did more than that. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." She felt her heart flutter, unexpected, uninvited, but real. He continued, his voice deeper now. "I don't know what I did to deserve someone like you in my life." Grace stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Maybe it's not about deserving. Maybe it's about timing. Maybe this was meant to happen." The wind carried her words gently between them. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Too long, but neither of them stepped back. Something was building, slowly, naturally, dangerously. Grace broke the moment with a soft smile. "Come on, let's get dinner. You need to eat after today's work." Daniel chuckled. "Are you buying?" "Yes," she replied. "And before you complain, remember, I'm your partner now." He laughed, a real laugh, one he hadn't felt in months. "Then I guess I don't have a choice." They walked away together, side by side. The shop behind them stayed glowing even in the dark, as if it knew a new chapter had begun. A chapter not just of business, but of something deeper, something neither of them could deny forever.